If you're a diabetic and you want to improve your blood sugar levels, you might be taking or considering taking GlucoTrust. And you want to know, is it a scam or is it legit? That's exactly what we're going to cover in this video. In more detail, here's what you can expect to learn. First, we'll talk about what GlucoTrust claims. Then we'll discuss a few different problems that I see with the formula. We'll then do an ingredient by ingredient breakdown of each one of the ingredients in the formula to see is it effective for blood sugar levels. Finally, we'll talk about whether it can improve deep sleep, safety and dosage concerns, and my final verdict about the formula. Before we jump in, who am I? My name is Igor. I'm the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Type 2 Diabetes Reversal Secrets. As well, I run an online personal training company that specializes in type 2 diabetes reversal. So here is their big claim on the homepage. Unlike most blood sugar formulas, this claims to not only improve blood sugar, it also claims to improve deep sleep. So the critique is, how does a tiny capsule manage to safely resolve clinical insomnia and regulate fasting glucose at the exact same time? So here are a few structural flaws. One, is that it hides behind something called a proprietary blend. It tells you what's in it, but not how much. So individual ingredient amounts are completely hidden. We know these are the ingredients, and when you add them all up, they add up to 207.7 milligrams. But how much is each individual ingredient? Is it split equally amongst the 207.7 milligrams, or are certain ingredients weighed more than others? We just don't know from a proprietary blend. So there is no clinical testing. There's no clinical trials, no peer-reviewed evidence, and the formula itself has never been tested. Individual ingredients, some have been tested, some have not been tested, but how they interact with each other, we just don't know. So to add marketing credibility, they use a couple of well-known nutrients like biotin and chromium. Now, by the way, well-known is not the same thing as effective, which we'll discuss in a few minutes. Um, but the rest, the herbs, are hidden behind a proprietary blend, as mentioned earlier. So they use familiar ingredients to build trust, but then the effective herbs become heavily diluted inside the blend. So here's the math problem. The total proprietary blend can range from 555 to 1295 milligrams, depending on which version of the supplement you use. Now, this is split between 15 different ingredients, and yet each ingredient needs between 100 and 500 milligrams to work. So if everything was split equally, it would get 37 to 86 milligrams each. However, that's not the case. The numbers suggest many ingredients are likely below the clinically effective doses. Let's look at each ingredient individually. Let's start with gymnema sylvester. Here is a meta-analysis examining, is it effective for type diabetes? And the answer is yes. By itself, gymnema sylvester lowers A1C between 0.5% to 1%. That is really, really good. However, here's the catch. The dosages used in studies are between 400 and 600 milligrams per day. In GlucoTrust, it's a tiny amount of that. Um, it's guaranteed below 400 milligrams because split between 15 different ingredients, they all add up to 207. So it's guaranteed a lot lower than even the minimum threshold of 400 milligrams. What about cinnamon bark? Here's another meta-analysis and another one looking at whether it's effective in type 2 diabetics. And the answer is yes, reasonably effective. Their blood sugar drops between 18 to 29% as a result of supplementation with cinnamon bark. However, again, the dosage used is between 1,000 and 6,000 milligrams per day. GlucoTrust has too little cinnamon bark to matter. The highest dosed version of the supplement has 1,295 milligrams, but that's not 1,295 of cinnamon bark. That's 1,295 split between many different ingredients. So again, the dosage of cinnamon bark is way too low to be effective in GlucoTrust. What about licorice root? There is not a single study that it lowers blood sugar levels in type 2 diabetics. So why is it in there? Because there is research, just not on humans. The research is available in rats and mice only. Here's one study showing how effective it is in diabetic mice. So if you have a pet mouse who's diabetic and you want them to improve their blood sugar levels, this is what you give them. But if you're a diabetic yourself, probably not going to work, or at least we just don't know. The same is true for juniper berries. There's not a single human study, but the research is only available in mice and rats. What about bitter melon? So there are some human studies, but with highly mixed results. Here are the clinical findings. The effect on fasting blood glucose is there's a moderate drop, but again, it's not consistent. The effect on A1C is a pretty big drop, but again, it varies a lot study to study. So you can't consistently count on it to reduce blood sugar levels. There are better things that are more proven. Um, but let's say even if it does improve blood sugar levels, the dosage is 2,000 milligrams or more of raw powder per day. By comparison, GlucoTrust is too small to even accommodate even a small amount of the 2,000 milligrams used in human testing. So it's more than 90% lower, and that's virtually guaranteed. Okay. Um, so what about the deep sleep marketing illusion? So here's the strategy. In theory, better sleep will result to lower cortisol, which will result in better blood glucose control. Here is the clinical flaw. It's missing primary sleep nutrients like melatonin, magnesium, and isolated ashwagandha extracts. These are the most effective sleep supplements, and none of them are present in GlucoTrust. And so the theory goes that if you control your blood sugar, you'll sleep better. Well, maybe, but also maybe not. That's up to chance. And so the verdict is that it has micro doses of auxiliary botanicals, but it's not the same thing as having restorative deep sleep or metabolic healing. The final verdict is this. The vast majority of ingredients are severely underdosed. They are probably most of them are 90% lower than what's found effective in clinical trials. Um, there's one well-dosed ingredient. It's better to have one well-dosed ingredient rather than many underdosed ingredients. So additionally, there is no safety testing on how cinnamon interacts with licorice, which interacts with Gymnema sylvester. And so basically, there are unknown risks. You are running an experiment on yourself voluntarily. And I hope you're reporting your side effects to the company so that they know how these interact with each other. But it's just a case study. The bottom line on GlucoTrust is this. Consumers are paying premium prices for generic vitamins, biotin, which has been shown ineffective, and zinc, which is not that effective, ingredients readily available over the counter, underdose herbal blends, and high price, low value. My opinion, if you just take one ingredient that works and you find a supplement with that ingredient and that ingredient only and nothing else at the right dosages, you're going to likely have a much better improvement in your blood sugar levels than GlucoTrust. If you like this video, I have a special video that goes way deeper into this. It's called the Diabetes Reversal Checklist. 3 simple steps to lower blood sugar naturally. This video is not available on YouTube. However, I have made it available to you for a free download at this link on your screen right now or in the description below.